So this has been prepared for seeding, and as I can see there in the distance, he is preparing the seeder, and then the sun hemp and sunflowers, I think, will be seeded here. Of course, this is now pretty dry, but as we will install irrigation basically next week, we should be fine. And after all, those are two plants that are for high temperatures, so there should be no problem. It might not germinate without the irrigation, and that would be a good thing, so that the young plants will not suffer. But like I said, now that seeding is finished, we will then be able to install the irrigation, and then we should be fine. And I should also explain what the plan is. So for the sun hemp and sunflower, they should grow here, go to maturity, distribute the seed. Of course, the birds will eat the sunflower seed. That's what they always do, but it doesn't really matter. Some will still end up in the ground, or the birds will take them elsewhere. And once this is done, probably by the end of September, we will then mow it. And I wish that we can pull this off, so we will be preparing things for that. By end of spring next year, I want to hydro seed. That's the new thing, and I think we can pull that off with the material that we already have in part. So we are just missing the pump and a few hoses and the nozzle that is for that. But all that should be available here in Europe somewhere. And then I want to hydro seed Bermuda grass here as a ground cover. And we will then, by May, set paulownia trees here in this area. So that's the plan for that. So biomass, roots in the ground now in this season, and then all this material should help the trees. And the Bermuda grass is for grazing, not grazing by bovines or something like that, but chicken and similar small animals between the trees. So this is a different system. It's not a Miyawaki forest, but still it's a system. And it's agroforestry basically. So it appears that we will now start seeding. And like I was saying, that is sun hemp and friends. Right now it's just one friend. But of course there is the seed bank in the soil that will also come up when the time is ripe, and it's for biomass. So we don't expect a harvest. And the plan, I think I already explained. So that thing is wobbling left and right, and I just got hit by a few seeds, so it is definitely working and the seeds are coming out. That shouldn't take long because it's two smaller fields. And after that the seed will be buried, and then it's our job to put the irrigation in place. Well, that's everything new. We got some rain. I wasn't expecting that, but you can clearly see that the Jeep is getting wet. And the boys here have some argument, as always. Don't you worry about that. But I have to report that we are getting a little bit wet. It is not that much. The sky, as you can see, is mostly clear, but we have some raindrops. So that's a very nice thing. Water and sun makes everything grow. So here, where this gets irrigated, I want the Bermuda grass that I have seeded here in that area to germinate and show up, and therefore I keep the moisture level high. And Bermuda grass apparently germinates above 18 degrees centigrade. So that we have now, and that should make the Bermuda grass show up. And therefore I'm trying to keep this pretty high. So I just turned it off, and the sensor that is there reported 29% moisture. And the Palovnia trees are also apparently liking that. Of course, you see that there is a puddle, because that is compacted. I just saw something and went back to grab the camera. Once again, I have to report defeat and failure. So let me show you what it is. It is about the vetiver, the heat-loving plant that is great for certain things during summer and can also be forage during summer when other plants are struggling. But unfortunately, here at our place, which happens to be a Dehesa, where summers are harsh, winters are mild and moist, other plants, they kind of dominate, and they are annuals. And at some point they will then die out and die off, and then basically make room for something else. But that something else has to survive until its time has come. And now let me show you the problem. I had mentioned that before. So here what you see is part of this wannabe food forest, and here in this place we had vetiver and lost some, and we lost it to the plants that were thriving while it was moist and cold. And the vetiver wasn't able to grow just yet because the temperature requirements were not met. And what I see, and that's the defeat I have to report, I was negligent in cutting down all this, so that the vetiver that sits somewhere in there can get light and start to grow and all this. So this is a problem. So there you see a vetiver sticking out. This is now an established vetiver and is a lot bigger, but as you can see, it sits there tucked away within the other plants that are taller. Of course now they are drying out, and the vetiver will then take their place, but as long as the vetiver does not dominate the area, it will always be at a disadvantage, and we might actually lose it. So that is the huge problem. And it is different when it comes to a place like this, or inside a trench that is filled with water, that is too moist for the others, so there the vetiver has a chance of growing. It will not be over-dominated or dominated or suppressed by the others. But even here at the edge, you can see there is vetiver sticking out, but the other stuff is also there. So my conclusion, to avoid this defeat every year and basically do the work of Sisyphus, we have to be very diligent and basically have a reminder to check on these places where we want vetiver to grow and cut the other plants away in time. Of course, this is kind of against the whole idea of creating a system that manages itself. So I am scratching my head how actually this can be done. Because this should not look like it looks right now. And at some point, one might say, yeah, you are trying to do something that's against the established ecosystem. And that might be true. So I am a little bit at a loss here. On the other hand, what does work great is this here. So with the irrigation in place, the Bermuda grass and all the other grasses that are also in there, but the Bermuda grass is now the one that is thriving more, I would think. This is growing very well. You can see how it is green there where it gets watered. The negatives part, or the sad part is that the Palovnia trees, they have been struggling because we had that frost in early May. And I cut away a few branches that apparently were clearly dead. My hope is that the one here in the front is making leaves. There are a few places where it seems like, but it's a slow process. That one here in the front, I had to cut down almost completely, but you can see it is making leaves from below now, and the same goes for that one. And I also talked with the supplier of the saplings, and he told me the same thing. So when that happens, you just cut it down and it will come back from the root, and that is what's happening. You can also see there is one. Maybe I can go a little bit closer without getting too wet. So this one here, it is making leaves on top, but only a few, and it decided to come back from below. And that is their strategy, how to maintain their existence. And the branches where there are no leaves, they might be a total loss. Of course, if you grow them for wood, then that's a huge issue. And I would think you then decide to just accept the loss when that happens, cut them down completely and start over next year. But of course, it's very sad when that happens 5 years into the growing of the tree. Then, it sets you back 5 years. This one, on the other hand, has not suffered that much. It's coming along. But this is their second year. So that is not a huge issue. But if those over there were for wood, instead of here in the future dog enclosure, we would be crying a little bit.